Pink or blue? Does it really matter when raising kids? Hello everyone. Today I'd like to share with you a story that I believe many of us parents have experienced, or at least thought about at some point. It's about colors. About things that seem trivial but actually have a profound impact on how our children grow up. I recently read a fascinating article by an expert, and I'd like to retell it in a relatable, heartfelt way, like a conversation from one parent to another. Someone who's learning every day how to be a friend to their kids. This article revolves around a few key points that I think are worth reflecting on together. First, it's how many parents, whether intentionally or not, often choose items for their kids based on gender, pink for girls, blue for boys. Second, it's how adults sometimes steer their children's preferences to fit what society deems normal, out of fear that they'll be teased. And finally, it's a reminder that we should change, become more open-minded parents, and teach our kids that colors are just colors, they don't define who they are. Alright, let's dive into the details so you can picture it clearly and feel it with me. Pink for girls, blue for boys. Is that a given? Have you ever noticed how, when we shop for our kids, whether it's clothes, shoes, or toys, there are almost always two clear color teams: pink for girls, blue for boys? I remember when my kids were little, I'd naturally pick pink for my daughter and blue for my son without even thinking twice. At some point, that mindset just sank in, like it was the obvious thing to do. But then I realized it's not just me. Lots of parents do the same. Some deliberately choose the right colors because they worry their kid might get teased outside. Like, a boy wearing pink? Weird. Or, what kind of girl plays with tanks? Others might go for colors like yellow, orange, or green, but often just because, I don't like pink or blue. Not necessarily to challenge any rules. Then, as my kids got older and started understanding more, I'd hear comments from grandparents or other adults. A boy wearing pink? That's odd. Or, girls should play with dolls, cars are for boys. Hearing that, I felt a mix of amusement and pity. Pity because the kids get boxed in so early, and sometimes I'd unknowingly contributed to it myself. Gender stereotypes. How do they affect our kids? Now, I'd like you to sit back for a moment and think deeper about this with me. Because it's not just about colors or toys, it's about how it shapes our kids down the line. Stopping kids from being themselves. Imagine this. If kids hear every day that boys should be like this, or girls should be like that, what happens to the ones who don't fit that mold? I once met a little boy who loved playing with dolls and wearing pastel clothes. But his parents kept pushing him toward tanks and manly outfits. Seeing the sadness in his eyes broke my heart. When kids have to force themselves to fit what adults expect, suppressing what they truly like or want, how does that affect their spirit? Won't they feel stifled, maybe even ashamed of being different? Society's more open now. People can choose to be he, she, or even they. So why do we trap our kids in such narrow boxes from the start, unintentionally limiting their choices? I once read about the famous toy store Hamleys. Back in the day, they split their shop into 2 floors, pink for girls, blue for boys. But in 2011, they switched things up. No more gender divide. Just sections by toy type, stuffed animals, vehicles, models, and so on. Apparently, a scientist pointed out that restricting toys by gender limits kids' chances to fully develop their potential. It rang true to me. In my house, when my daughter found out she was getting a sibling, she was so excited, always wanting to hold and care for the baby. My son, though, not so much. He didn't care. I wondered, was it because she'd played with dolls and learned to nurture, while he'd only shot guns and driven cars? If I don't broaden their options, I might have missed giving them a chance to explore and discover themselves. The roots of discrimination. What worries me most is how these stereotypes could lead to bigger issues. If kids grow up thinking everyone has to be the same, they'll struggle to accept those who are different. And from there, prejudice creeps in. Then discrimination. I don't want my kids growing up judging others with a sneer just because they don't fit the standard. Plus, if we cling to gender norms, how can society ever move toward equality? Being modern parents. Where do we start? Friends, I believe parenting is a never-ending learning journey. I don't blame anyone, not even myself, for what's happened before, but going forward, I want to change. I want to tell my kids, pink is a color, blue is a color, pick what you like, as long as you're happy and true to yourself. I hope you'll consider this too. Letting go of those standards we sometimes follow without even knowing why. Let the kids explore freely and grow into who they want to be. Because in the end, the most precious thing is seeing them happy, right? That's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope this story touches your heart the way it moved me when I read and rewrote it. Thanks for listening.